So we'll continue the previous video on romantic failure with this second section on the apocalypse. So the word apocalypse basically means revelation of truth, and in the context of the absolute truth, which is what we've been discussing, which is here and now, and which is limitless, boundless, infinite, perfect, indestructible, and eternal, and which instantly terminates fear and desire, as you've discussed. The world is dissolved because the fundamental error which we've been discussing, which is the belief in I as an object, as the body mind complex, which is an abstract object which we imagine to be separate from the cosmos, gives birth to the world as the other with which it is in relationship with. So the world is basically the other, and the ego is the uh, entity that you believe to be I. So I and the world basically are the two basic ingredients for the story of the individual human being. So every individual human being has associated with that individual human being an entire world, which is the story of the life of that human being. So when it is discovered that the absolute truth is alone real, and that the self and other division is an imposed boundary which creates apparent duality, the apparent existence of I and the world, which are both actually forms of consciousness or the absolute truth. It is realized that neither I nor the world actually exist because there is only consciousness of the absolute truth appearing as I and the world temporarily. So, this is the revelation that is talked about as the apocalypse or the end of the world. So, it's not a physical ending as is shown in disaster movies like Deep Impact or Armageddon or 2012. It is actually a much deeper phenomenon. So, the apocalypse is in fact here and now. There is no word and there is no ego. There is only the absolute truth, and all of us are the absolute truth appearing as all of us. And this realization is what is called enlightenment. So, in fact, there never was an ego or a word. It was only a dream, a believed in story, which is given apparent reality by the hypnotic power of the mind, which is also an emanation of the absolute truth. In other words, consciousness is the source of the mind, and consciousness believes the world into existence and the ego into existence and plays out the whole relationship between the ego and the world over time. So, in connection with romantic failure induces the suffering which drives the spiritual journey and the process of discovery of what we've just discussed about the apocalypse. And that realization is the end of the world at one level. But it's not a literal end of the world, it's the end of imagined projections as opposed to reality. Reality cannot be destroyed, only illusions and delusions are destroyed. There is no real thing as death. So, the original belief in separation occurs when the I thought is initially believed in very early childhood. So, in fact, there is no such thing as birth because the body, which is apparently born, is actually just rearranged matter and energy and information, which comes from the cosmos, which is the sole reality. So it's because we believe in birth that we believe in death. Everything that is born dies. So only the imagined limitation upon the infinite absolute truth is born because we imagine it into existence due to our conditioning. And then via the spiritual journey, which is a long drawn out, involved, difficult, and epic quest, it is gradually, in most cases, discovered that the absolute truth or consciousness alone is, and it's appearing as I and the world, and that I and the world are just forms of consciousness, and that consciousness is the sole reality. And that realization is revelation or salvation or the apocalypse. So there is no manifestation, and therefore there is no apocalypse from one perspective, and from the other perspective, if you believe there to be manifestation, then there is the apocalypse, which is here and now. It's a fairly deep and involved topic. So, quite funnily, romantic failure leads to the realization of the end of the world, which is also oblivion and enlightenment here and now. And we are that sole reality which is being discussed. So, we'll discuss a few more implications of this in the coming videos.